Hello, so a quick update on the petition hold Fujitsu to account for the post office scandal, with the three main strands being not to give new contracts to Fujitsu, where possible scrap existing Fujitsu contracts and use your power to force Fujitsu to pay compensation to victims. We are well over the 235,000 barrier that we have crossed today. We currently stand at 236,121 signatures, so thank you for signing and sharing. Thanks Lisa, Charlie and Susan who've signed in the last 12 minutes or so. Keep signing, keep sharing. It is more important than ever that we keep the pressure on to hold Fujitsu and others to account for the post office scandal. Now we're going to jump in and review a bit more of the post office scandal news for today. What good can you possibly have to say about this? There's no spin in this, is there? New Horizon outrage. I feel that is going to be pinned to the headlines for many, many months to come yet. Post chiefs parted as they fought victims. The boss of the post office at the time, Paula Venables, danced to Pixie Lot while sub-postmasters battled for justice. Wow. Pixie Lot was at the time charging £25,000 for appearances at corporate events. Another news story from The Independent. So Fujitsu boss, we knew right from the start about post office IT problem. This is something we reported from the inquiry earlier this week, and there are videos on his statements to inquiry, but astonishing admission from top executive that firm was aware of bugs, errors and defects for nearly 2 decades. But evidence was withheld during the prosecution of innocent sub-postmasters. Fujitsu knew of defects in the Horizon IT system for nearly 2 decades, its European boss admitted. Paul Patterson told the official inquiry into the post office scandal that bugs and errors in the faulty accounting system were known about right from the very start. Wow. He also said he had seen evidence of the editing of witness statements, which, if we look back at the previous videos and evidence we've seen from the inquiry, seem to be happening in the email chains we've been analysing so far. Do have a look at those videos, the Peter Sewell videos and the Paul Patterson videos that we've put out there, analysing it. But it is clear from those emails what was happening. Used to prosecute hundreds of sub-postmasters for theft and false accounting, which he described as shameful and appalling. Well, there's plenty of other words we could certainly use to do it, but shameful and appalling is a start. Fujitsu now faces demands to contribute substantial sums to the $1 billion compensation bill. Notice how only a couple of weeks ago they were talking about compensation bills in the million. $1 billion sounds a lot, but think of all the people affected. Think of all the costs. It's still probably nowhere near the true amount. After it admitted this week it had a moral duty to do so. Well, that moral duty needs to be transformed, as we've said, into concrete compensation and justice. Looking back now, Parliament is keeping its finger on the pulse with this, trying to hold Fujitsu to account as MPs seek details on public sector contracts with IT firm. It has been widely reported the amount of Fujitsu contracts there are with the public sector in the UK, to the extent that I have read reports where they are saying the majority of Fujitsu UK's income is actually stems from public sector contracts. So the Treasury and HMRC are among 21 public sector organisations being asked by MPs to reveal details of any contracts handed to Fujitsu after the post office computer system scandal. So we're not even looking here at the total amount of contracts. We're just looking at requests from potentially 21 public sector organisations. Doesn't necessarily mean they all do hold them, but not just contracts they hold with Fujitsu full stop, but contracts they held after the post office computer system scandal. The Commons Treasury Committee says it wants to discover the extent to which taxpayers' money has been spent on contracts with the company since 2019. I mean, it'd be interesting to see the full overview of current and former contracts with Fujitsu, but this is only scratching the surface of the past 5 years. You know, in 2019, this was well known. About 2017, post office stopped prosecutions after clearly realising or thinking this has gone too far now, which they'd way past that point, but I'm sure that's the way they saw it then. That is when the High Court ruled prosecutions were wrongly brought on the Fujitsu's faulty Horizon IT system. So that was when Bates and others won their court case against the post office based on faulty Horizon data. Fujitsu has apologised for its role. The company has also said it will not bid for further contracts until the public inquiry into the scandal is complete. It's not committing not to bid for contracts in the future. We just won't do it for now while public outrage is still there. And that's why it's more important than ever that we keep the outrage there, keep showing how upset we are with the way these people have been treated and the tremendous miscarriage of justice. One estimate has suggested that Fujitsu secured more than £4 billion of business from the government in the last 5 years, even after information about the defects involving Horizon emerged. So we've got to assume that number in total is into the double digits of billions, if not the hundreds of billions, since Horizon in 1999 was launched. But the estimate at the moment is at least 4 billion of business after it's all started coming out in the 2019 Bates and others case. The Treasury Committee's letter has also been sent to the Royal Mint, the Bank of England and the Crown Estate and the Financial Conduct Authority. The MPs are seeking details about any contracts awarded to Fujitsu Services Limited or other Fujitsu global owned entities. There is public concern about the extent to which they are used as a government supplier. No kidding. Harriet Baldwin, who chairs the Treasury Committee, told BBC Radio 4's Today programme on Saturday. Ms Baldwin told the BBC earlier that the public outcry was entirely justified, adding that she spoke for the whole committee when I expressed my horror at the injustices the victims faced and said Fujitsu had questions to answer. Absolutely. That's not deniable. And we're starting to get some answers at the inquiry, but it still feels like scratching the surface. She said, I think it's important we can see the extent to which taxpayer money has been spent with Fujitsu since the High Court ruling, as they are simultaneously assessed on their fitness to remain a government supplier. So there is those two strands, which we've highlighted in the petition to hold Fujitsu to account for the post office scandal. The fitness to remain as a government supplier is seriously dubious at the moment, based off how we know they've acted so far and the things they're admitting. But the extent to which our money, taxpayer money, has been spent with Fujitsu since everything started coming out, not just since it was known by people in power, but since it all started coming out in the public domain. Between 1995 and 2015, the Post Office privately prosecuted hundreds of sub-postmasters and postmistresses based on Horizon data. Horizon data, we now know, produced faulty accounts and was flawed. Victims were wrongly accused of offences including theft, fraud and false accounting. Some went to prison and others have died without being able to seek justice. We must make sure that nobody else dies. Too many people have died already. Nobody else must die without getting justice for the post office scandal. We're still only at 93 wrongful convictions that have been overturned so far, despite all the public pressure, whilst thousands are still waiting for compensation settlements more than 20 years on. 2 decades on, we've still got thousands of people waiting for compensation. The government this month announced plans to exonerate and compensate victims of the scandal following an ITV drama on the subject, which sparked widespread public outrage. Well, they've announced it. Where's the action on it now? Words have to be followed by action on this now. Thanks for joining us on this update. We've got another 6 signatures since we've been doing this video on the whole Fujitsu to account for post office scandal petition. I'll put a link to it in the description. We're now to 236,127. Thank you, Stephanie, Terence and Andrea for signing within the last 10 minutes. Keep signing, sharing and subscribing to the channel for further updates. Take care.